Jai. Go Pramanande, Hari Hari Bo. All right. All together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Could read the translation. O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Again, all together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supreme most human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Saprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance and classes on the Bhagavatam, and by return service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So I just want to start by saying that this is very far outside of my comfort zone. I've grown up in this community and been in gurukuls most of my life. But giving class is not something that I've done very often. I think this might be the second time I've given class in this temple room, actually. And the last time was more than 10 years ago. So thank you all for being here and bearing with me. And I appreciate Drishya Jumna for bringing his most difficult questions today. I'm looking forward to passing those on to Mother Prabhupada Priya and the other advanced devotees in the audience to answer them. No, but genuinely, I ask for all of you to please give me your blessings, that I may say something that can help myself and all of us in our Krishna consciousness, and to those devotees like Rupa Nuga Prabhu and many others that I know that are listening online, and to all of you in this room. You're much more qualified to be sitting here than I am, so bear with me, and thank you. So, thank you, Mother. I appreciate it. So just wanted to start with a little recap of kind of where we're at. Yesterday we heard from Brihat Mridanga Prabhu about how the four Kumaras reached Vaikuntha and how they had passed through the first 6 entrances, and they were coming to the 7th gate to enter, and they saw Jai and Vijay, and it's described that they could see their eyebrows were ruffled, they were like disturbed. And they stopped them from entering the 7th gate. And the four Kumaras, they became angry, and it's described, or the exact words that are used, they became angry due to their eagerness to see their most beloved master, Sri Hari, the personality of Godhead. So it wasn't like when I get angry because somebody's offended me and I don't like what they said to me, but they were angry simply because they were being delayed in seeing the Supreme Lord. And despite their anger, the Kumaras still had compassion upon Jai and Vijay, that the curse that they were giving them, they still wanted to do it in a way that would eventually benefit them and would help them. And when Jai and Vijay realized that they were going to be cursed, they immediately fell at the feet of the Kumaras. And it said that they fell at their feet and they accepted it, that they deserved to be cursed because they didn't give the respect that was due to these great sages. And all Jai and Vijay asked for when they prayed to the Kumaras was that even though they had to be cursed and they knew it was the right thing, but that they would not forget the Supreme Lord as they had to go through being cursed. And so today we will hear about how the Lord immediately appeared on the spot, and that his purpose for appearing on the spot was to protect his devotees, Jai and Vijay. And we'll hear a beautiful description of what that was like, and how the Lord made himself visible to the Kumaras face to face, when previously they'd only been visible, they had only seen the Lord within their hearts. So I think we're on text 37, I believe is where we're starting. And if we have the microphone, go ahead and pass it around.
My dear sons, the Lord is the controller of the three modes of nature and is responsible for the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. His wonderful creative power, Yogamaya, cannot be easily understood even by masters of yoga.
Yeah, something doesn't seem right. Chapter 15. Yeah.
Oh, that was a nice verse, though.
I was panicking for a second there. I was looking at my notes and I was like, man, did I just prepare for the wrong?
At every moment, the Lord, who is called Padmanabha, because of the lotus grown from his navel, and who is the delight of the righteous, learned about the insult offered by his own servants to the saints. Accompanied by his spouse, the goddess of fortune, he went to the spot on those very feet sought by the recluses and great sages.
The sages, headed by Sanaka Rishi, saw that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who was formerly visible only within their hearts in static trance, had now actually become visible to their eyes, as he came forward accompanied by his own associates, bearing all paraphernalia, such as an umbrella and a camera fan. The white bunches of hair moved very gently, like two swans, and due to their favorable breeze, the pearls garlanding the umbrella also moved, like drops of nectar falling from the white full moon, and ice melting, or ice melting due to the gust of wind.
The Lord is the reservoir of all pleasure. His auspicious presence is meant for everyone's benediction, and his affectionate smiling and glancing touch the core of the heart. The Lord's beautiful bodily color is blackish, and his broad chest is the resting place of the goddess of fortune, who glorifies the entire spiritual world, the summit of all heavenly planets. Thus it appeared that the Lord was personally spreading the beauty and good fortune of the spiritual world.
I'm just going to pause there just for a second. So in the purport to this verse, it says that when the Lord came, he was pleased with everyone. Therefore it's stated here, the Lord knew that even the offensive doormen were his pure devotees, although by chance they committed an offense at the feet of other devotees. And later in the purport it says that the Lord, being equal to all and being especially inclined to his devotees, looked as mercifully at the offenders as at the offended. This attitude of the Lord was due to his unlimited quantity of transcendental qualities. And I was just really struck by the mercy and compassion of the Lord after Jai and Vijay had offended the four Kumaras who were very advanced devotees. They're not ordinary people. Like I could just imagine if we had some wonderful devotee like Giriraj Maharaj come to the temple and somebody at the temple said, no, you're not allowed to come in, and that if whoever it was came onto the scene, that they would actually have the compassion and patience and mercy upon those doormen and look on them favorably after that had happened. And so I just thought it would be kind of nice for us to just discuss amongst ourselves take 2 minutes, and you can talk to the person next to you. So the question I had was, when have you felt the Lord's or his devotees' compassion in your life? So we'll just take 2 minutes, and for those that are online, you can discuss it with anyone near you or just reflect on this question. So When have you felt the Lord's or His devotees' compassion in your life, is the question. Yes. Oh, so if you could please discuss it with Mother Manjari Gopika. All right, so we're right about the end of 2 minutes. Does anybody need any more time? Would anybody like to share anything from their answer to this question with the group?
So I wasn't in the community for long, maybe less than a year, and we bought this little small house on Prairie, and the person who was renting it called us up at 10 o'clock, and there was something going on with the water, but the pipe broke. The faucet part broke off completely, and so water's just shooting out. I mean, just like 5-6 feet out of the. I was just thinking right now, Rupa Nuga Prabhu's on, probably listening to this online, so he's gonna laugh because I didn't know what to do. So I called Rupa Nuga Prabhu, called Rasaraj Prabhu. And I was like, what do I do? Do we shut off the water? What do I do? So we ended up shutting the water off. Anyways, they just went into action, And Rupa Nuga Prabhu and Rasaraj, they cut off the pipe at one point and then welded back on the piece and put on another piece and stuff. And anyways, an hour at 11, this is at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, we finally got done. And I was just sitting there just about tears coming out of my eyes, just going, wow, how lucky am I to be in a community where somebody's willing to help, Yeah. Some neighbors would be like, good luck.
call a plumber.
Yeah. It was really nice. It was definitely a nice experience.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? One more person would like to share?
Oh, well, I, of course, was immediately taken back to about a year ago. My husband was in a debilitating condition, and he had spinal surgery. And the devotees in the community took care of our needs in every way, with prasadam every day for months, at least 6 weeks, something like that, and helped raise funds for the surgery. Richard Vajraswamy visited us in the hospital after he had the surgery. Giriraj Swami I don't even remember what part of the country he was in, and he was doing Nrisimha Arti for my husband. And so I will just never, ever forget the shelter I felt during that really, really difficult time.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to share that in 2013 I had to have surgery, and I was in the hospital, and it was so difficult. And then Sri Rupa, Nrisimha, and Radhakund showed up with a huge container of delicious soup. and they fed me, and they gave so much love and affection. So thank you for that. Since you're giving class, I thought I'd talk about you.
I paid Madhusacharya to say that before class. The whole question was a setup. Thank you. Okay, let's go to text 40. I think we were at Prabhupada Priya Prabhu, or maybe Jose we're going to read. The mic's over there.
He was adorned with a girdle that shone brightly on the yellow cloth covering his large hips. He wore a garland of fresh flowers, which was distinguished by humming bees. His lovely wrists were graced with bracelets, and he rested one of his hands on the shoulder of Garuda, his carrier, and twirled a lotus with another hand.
I was just struck by this description, and it's particularly the twirling a lotus in his hand. Just imagining what that must look like, the Lord twirling a lotus in his hand. Please go ahead.
His countenance was distinguished by cheeks that enhanced the beauty of his alligator-shaped pendants, which outshone lightning. His nose was prominent, and his head was covered with a gem-studded crown. A charming necklace hung between his stout arms, and his neck was adorned with the gem known by the name Kaustuba.
I'll read 42. The exquisite beauty of Narayan, being many times magnified by the intelligence of his devotees, was so attractive that it defeated the pride of the goddess of fortune in being the most beautiful. My dear demigods, the Lord who thus manifested himself is worshipable by me, by Lord Shiva, and by all of you. The sages regarded him with unsated eyes and joyously bowed their heads at his lotus feet. So I was in the purport to this verse. The Lord's exquisite beauty is further discussed, and to quote the purport, it says, in the words of Vaishnava poets, it is said that the Lord's beauty is so enchanting that it defeats hundreds of thousands of cupids. So I'm sure someone will know the answer to this question, but what is the name of the Lord that means his beauty defeats hundreds and thousands of cupids?
Mohan.
Yes, Madan Mohan. And then later in the purport, it's also described that the Lord sometimes becomes mad after the beauty of Radharani. And then poets describe that under those circumstances, although Lord Krishna is Madana Mohana, what is the name of the Lord that means he is enchanted by the beauty of Radharani? Yeah, so that's what I'd always heard. And in the purport, it says Madana Daha in the purport. Yeah. That she's conquered by or something like that. She bewilders, yeah, so that's the name for her, I think. And so then Madana Daha is the name for Krishna when he is enchanted by Radharani. Yeah. And then I just really like this description that actually this is in the purport, actually the Lord's beauty is super excellent, surpassing even the beauty of Lakshmi in Vaikuntha. The devotees of the Lord in the Vaikuntha planets want to see the Lord as the most beautiful, but the devotees in Goloka or Krishna Loka want to see Radharani as more beautiful than Krishna. The adjustment is that the Lord, being Bhaktavatsala, or one who wants to please his devotees, assumes such features so that devotees like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other demigods may be pleased. Here also, for the devotee sages, the Kumaras, the Lord appeared in his most beautiful feature, and they continued to see him without satiation and wanted to continue seeing him more and more. I just thought it was so interesting that in Golok Vrindavan and Gokul, that he makes Radharani more beautiful in Gokul because that's what the devotees are looking for. So being merciful upon them. And then because Brahma and Shiva and the four Kumaras were looking to see his beauty as the highest, then he shows himself in that form to them. I found that to be very interesting. Text 43.
When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves from the toes of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead entered the nostrils of the sages, They experienced a change both in body and in mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding.
So we'll come back to this verse and do the Sanskrit, but we can go on to 44.
Text 44. The Lord's beautiful face appeared to them like the inside of a blue lotus, and the Lord's smile appeared to be a blossoming jasmine flower. After seeing the face of the Lord, the sages were fully satisfied, and when they wanted to see him further, they looked upon the nails of his lotus feet, which resembled rubies. Thus they viewed the Lord's transcendental body again and again, and so they finally achieved meditation on the Lord's personal feature.
Thank you. And so there's a nice, in this context, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 4th canto, chapter 24, text 52, it's a description.
This is the form of the Lord, which is...
Sorry, just 1 second, Prabhu. So there's in line with this, and the translation is that, my dear Lord, your 2 lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like 2 blossoming petals of the lotus flower, which grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all the darkness in the heart of a conditioned soul. My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all conditioned souls covered with the darkness of ignorance can be enlightened by you as a spiritual master. And in the purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada references the verse that we say daily, Om Jnana Timirandasya. And I found it, the explanation after this verse, to be really nice. And because we have the translation that we read every day, which is what I'm used to hearing. But this is what was quoted in the purport after this verse. The Lord is the supreme spiritual master, and the bona fide representative of the Supreme Lord is also a spiritual master. The Lord from within enlightens the devotees by the effulgence of the nails of his lotus feet. And his representative, the spiritual master, enlightens from without. Only by thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord and always taking the spiritual master's advice can one advance in spiritual life and understand Vedic knowledge. I just found that to be a really nice, and another way to understand that verse that we say every day in relationship to the lotus feet of the Lord, along with what the spiritual master gives us, that the combination of both of those. That's the purport to this to the verse. It's Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 52. Let's give her the mic.
Yeah, I was just, as you were talking, I was thinking that the torchlight, the light, which is the source of the torchlight of knowledge with which the spiritual master forces open our eyes, comes from the toenails, those shining ruby toenails of the lotus feet of the Lord. It's kind of a sweet meditation.
Yeah, indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all darkness in the heart. Yeah. Thank you. So
this is the form of the Lord, which is meditated upon by followers of yoga process and is pleasing to the yogis in meditation. It is not imaginary but factual, as proved by great yogis. The Lord is full in 8 kinds of achievement, but for others these achievements are not possible at full perfection.
I have a quick kind of a follow-up question. So for a perfect yogi, there are 8 kinds of super achievements, and that's directly what Srila Prabhupada says in the purport. And so the question is, what are the 8 yogic siddhis or perfections? And if you know the translation, that would be great also. Lagima? Lagima, yes. Become, yeah. So there's different...
Lighter than the lightest?
There's different translations that Srila Prabhupada gives, but the one that I saw, that I settled on, was become lighter than a soft feather.
Anima Siddhi means to become smaller than the smallest.
Yeah, yeah. Srila Prabhupada says becoming small like a particle.
Mahima is becoming greater or bigger than the biggest.
Yeah, or heavier than the heaviest is another way that... Yes, Prapti Siddhi. One can achieve whatever he desires. Yeah. And then, anybody? The rest of them I'm not so familiar with, so I had
Is
to...
Kama Vasayita Siddhi.
Yes, yeah.
I think it means you can get whatever you want, but I don't know how it's, I don't know how
Assume,
it's different.
assume any shape or form. Yeah. What was it? Yes, Prakamya Siddhi. And there's different translations, but the one that I said was to possess such power as will never be frustrated in any desire. Yes. It's called Ishitva Siddhi. And another way it's described is to act freely, even to create something wonderful, or to annihilate anything at will. So you can create a planet and destroy a planet. And then Vishitva Siddhi is the last one, to control all material elements. And then in the purport, I found this interesting because we're talking about them, and so it describes it further. Krishna consciousness is the highest yoga performance by trained devotional yogis. Despite all the allurement of yoga practice, the 8 kinds of yogic perfections are hardly achievable by the common man. But here it is described that the Lord, who appeared before the 4 sages, is himself full of all 8 of those perfections. The highest yoga marg process is to concentrate the mind 24 hours a day on Krishna. This is called Krishna consciousness. We can go to 46.
The Kumaras said, "Our dear friend, you are not manifested to rascals, even though you are seated within the heart of everyone. But as far as we are concerned, we see you face to face. Although you are unlimited, the statements we have heard about you from our father Brahma through the ears have now been actually realized by your kind appearance."
We know that you are the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, who manifests his transcendental form in the uncontaminated mode of pure goodness. This transcendental internal form, the eternal form of your personality, can be understood only by your mercy, through unflinching devotional service, by great sages whose hearts have been purified in the devotional way.
Persons who are very expert and most intelligent in understanding things as they are engage in hearing narrations of the auspicious activities and pastimes of the Lord, which are worth chanting and worth hearing. Such persons do not care even for the highest material benediction, namely liberation, to say nothing of other less important benedictions like the material happiness of the heavenly kingdom.
O Lord, we pray that you let us be born in any hellish condition of life, just as long as our hearts and minds are always engaged in the service of your lotus feet. Our words are made beautiful by speaking of your activities, just as tulsi leaves are beautiful when offered onto your lotus feet. And as long as our ears are always filled with the chanting of your transcendental qualities.
O Lord, we therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto your eternal form as the personality of Godhead, which you have so kindly manifested before us. Your supreme eternal form cannot be seen by unfortunate, less intelligent persons, but we are so much satisfied in our mind and vision to see it.
Thank you. Let's go to 43 and we can do the Sanskrit and purport together. Tasya ravinda nayanasya padaravinda Kinjalka Mishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayu Antargata Swavivarena Chakarate Sham Shangshobam Akshara Jusham Apichitta Tanvo Tasya Ravinda Nayanasya Padaravinda Kinjalka Mishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayu Antargata Swavivarena Chakarate Sham Shangshobam Akshara Jusham Apichitta Tanvo. Would anybody else like to chant? Tasya Ravinda Nayanasya Padaravinda Kinjalka Mishra Tulasi Makaranda Vayu Antargata Swavivarena Chakarate Sham Shangshobam Akshara Jusham Apichitta Tanvo. Okay, we can do the synonyms together. Tasya, of him, Aravinda Nayanasya, of the lotus-eyed Lord, Padaravinda, of the lotus feet, Kinjalka, with the toes, Mishra, mixed, Tulasi, the tulasi leaves, Makaranda, fragrance, Vayu, breeze, Antagata, entered within, Swavivarena, through their nostrils, Chakara, made, Tesham, of the Kumaras, Shankshobham, agitation for change, Akshara Jusham, attached to impersonal Brahman realization, Api, even though, Chittatanvo, in both mind and body. Okay, we can read the translation one more time and then purport.
When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulasi leaves from the toes of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead entered the nostrils of those sages, they experienced a change both in body and in mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding. It appears from this verse that the four Kumaras were impersonalists or protagonists of the philosophy of monism, becoming one with the Lord. But as soon as they saw the Lord's features, their minds changed. In other words, the impersonalist who feels transcendental pleasure in striving to become one with the Lord is defeated when he sees the beautiful transcendental features of the Lord. Because of the fragrance of his lotus feet carried by the air and mixed with the aroma of tulsi, their minds changed. Instead of becoming one with the Supreme Lord, they thought it wise to be devotees. Becoming a servitor of the lotus feet of the Lord is better than becoming one with the Lord.
Thank you. So in preparing for this class, I do more listening in my life than sitting down and reading, just by nature of how my life works out. So I listened to a few lectures one by Vaisheshika Prabhu and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. I could not find a lecture by Srila Prabhupada on this verse in translation. But one of the things that stood out to me when Ranath Maharaj was speaking about this verse is he mentioned how the 4 Kumaras are actually the first created beings by Lord Brahma. So they're like the older brothers of Shiva and Narada Muni and everybody that we speak of, and that they heard about the Supreme Lord from Lord Brahma, and they had actually we read about how the Lord had revealed Himself. They could see the Lord in their heart, but hadn't seen the Lord face to face. And so when the Lord appeared to protect His devotees, that was the first time that they had actually seen the Lord face to face. And then Vaisheshika Prabhu mentioned in the class that I was listening about the importance of how this verse shows that the spiritual world is better than what we're experiencing, that there's all different gradations of happiness and what we find, what's good and better and best, and how this verse and purport, it's the proof that the spiritual world is better, and that by coming in contact with the Lord, the 4 Kumaras, who are not ordinary, living entities, were able to travel throughout the entire creation, even entering into Vaikuntha, that they were attached to the impersonalist philosophy, but the fragrance of His lotus feet carried by the air, mixed with the aroma of the tulsi leaves, changed not only their minds, their minds changed, and it says also their bodies changed as well, and it helped free them, helped change from their being attached to that impersonalist propaganda. So that's kind of where I got in my preparation for the class, and so now I'd like to open it up for any comments or corrections. I think most of you are more than well equipped to answer the questions, so thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Something that I've just been thinking about since we read the verses or started this class is how everything that Krishna does and orchestrates serves multiple purposes, and how this was the desire of the Kumaras. This is why they were at the gate, was to see the personal form of the Lord, and because they weren't allowed in, that's what allowed them to see Krishna. Because entering into the Vaikunthas, they would have seen Narayan. And so even though they were frustrated by this, and then the 2 gatekeepers became cursed from this, through this arrangement, but it was still perfect, and it served like every purpose.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I was just thinking that we can see from this how important it is for us to see the form of the Lord and to have contact with, things that come from the personal form of the Lord, and that's why Srila Prabhupada established deity worship in all the temples, because you could say that the process for Kali Yuga is Harinam Sankirtan, all we need to do is chant. That's like, we don't need to do deity worship, but because we have this pervading, nirvishesha shunyavadi kind of, mentality that, we don't really know who God is, and as a person. And we're attached. We're also, many of us previously were attached to impersonal understandings. But when you see the form of Krishna and you taste prasadam, mahaprasadam of the deity, when you have flowers coming from the deity and tulsi from the feet of the deity, it's like it changes you. The same effect that it had on the Kumaras, it has on us. That people become attached. People become really addicted to Radhikala Chanji and their mahaprasadam, and it's like it works. So and to see those lotus feet and toenails and to see the beautiful form of the Lord, it is so satisfying to the heart and mind. And sometimes it's even like like it says, it caused a change in their bodies, minds and bodies. It's like you feel something. It's like a visceral experience. When you see the form of the Lord, it's like, wow. When the curtains first open, it's like, whoa. Sometimes you hear the devotees going, it's like really wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. The mercy of Srila Prabhupada, that we actually, to the degree of our realization, and the Lord is right here, present in front of us every day, and to the degree that we surrender and serve the Lord and His devotees, we can actually see the Lord in front of us, and not take for granted that we get to see the Lord every day in the temple. And since preparing for this, this morning at Mangalarti, when I saw the focus on the Lord's, specifically toenails, was so sweet after reading this. Thank you.
Prabhu, when you were speaking about the 8 mystic perfections, I was thinking how Lord Krishna is an equal opportunist. Because yesterday we have a reading group and we were reading about Krishna in Vrindavan and how Vyomasura came and snuck in when Krishna was playing with his cowherd friends. And so Vyomasura assumed a form because he was a demon, but he had all mystic powers. And Prabhupada writes that the demons have wonderful mystic powers. So Krishna captured him, Krishna caught him, because this Vyomasura was stealing the cowherd boys and putting them in caves and then closing the caves with rocks. So Krishna captured him and held him very tightly. And Prabhupada writes that the demon was trying to expand into a large form so that he could fight with Krishna. But Krishna held him so tightly that he couldn't do it. And also, I wanted to mention that Srila Prabhupada writes in many places that we should spread this information about the Vaikuntha Loka planets so that people will know how wonderful and beautiful Krishna Loka is and Vaikuntha, and they will want to go there.
Thank you.
I also had a thought actually about the 8 mystic cities, because one of them was prapti, which means attainment. And I was thinking that what is the most desirable object to attain? And that's Krishna. And through our connection with Srila Prabhupada, we actually have that prapti siddhi, because we sing like, Krishna prapti hoya hoite. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we can attain Krishna, get this Krishna prapti.
Thank you, Prabhu. It was a wonderful class. Thank you for churning the nectar. So I was meditating on our good fortune in the form of the association of devotees. We have seen there are several examples in the scriptures where devotees coming in contact with the Supreme Lord, like Dhruva Maharaj, the conch shell was touched and then there was revelation. And then we have Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya coming directly in touch with Lord Chaitanya and getting elevated to the devotee's position. And then we have Bilva Mangal Thakur, who was initiated by an impersonalist spiritual master, and when he went to Vrindavan, he came directly in touch with Krishna and he became a devotee. But I was thinking, it's more, good fortune, it's a better fortune if we come in contact with the devotees of the Lord, like Shukadeva Goswami. When he came out of the mother's womb, he was still, that element of impersonalism was there. But when he heard those 2 beautiful verses, Aho Vakyam and Barhapidam, from the devotees or disciples of Srila Vyasadeva, then he was elevated to the position of devotees. And Brahmaji, we see, what is his prayer? In the form of Haridas Thakur. He wants to take the bird, as a dog or some animal, just right outside the house of a devotee, so that he, gets to eat the remnants and he gets the association of the devotees. So our good fortunes, I was meditating, for myself, how fortunate we are that all those great personalities, especially the transcendentalists, like Srila Prabhupada, I just remembered, he mentions in Krishna book somewhere that transcendentalists, there are many of them, but bhaktas are the topmost, because those who meditate on the impersonal form, they go to the Brahmajyoti, they sit there like sleeping, dormant state for a long, long time. Finally, they fall down and take birth as trees, in this material world. And they realize that there is importance of rendering service to the devotees of the Lord. So imagine having to go through all that process, Aruya Krichena, right? Or Klesha Adikarastesham. There is so much klesh, there is so much, struggle, right? And after going through all that, you get the realization that I need to engage myself in the ninefold process of devotional service. That's why devotees association is greater than Supreme Lord's association.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other comments or corrections?
I remember Prabhupada pointing out one time that there are many cases, like Gokulananda Prabhu pointed out, there are many cases of impersonalists becoming devotees, but we don't see any cases of devotees becoming impersonalists.
Jai. Very well. Thank you so much.